Hello and welcome to the Student Organization Advisor Training. My name is Robert Jones. I'm the Assistant Director for Student Involvement and Leadership. And I'm super excited that you are taking the time to watch this video or attend the workshop. And I hope that the information that we provide will be helpful for you. Throughout this presentation, we will be looking at a variety of things. Number one, we're going to consider what is your role as an advisor, as well as what are some of the things you need to be successful. We're also going to look at who are you advising? What kind of students are we currently working with? We're going to examine the resources that are available, not only to you, but to your student organizations, so that you'll know how to direct them and where to direct them should you need it. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to outline some of the forms that student organizations are going to need to complete. Understanding these forms can speed up processes, procedures, and help the organizations be a little bit more successful. Now, as we go into this, I want to start off by outlining a few groups or individuals that can be very helpful to you as an advisor, but also a good resource for your students. The first is our Office of Student Engagement. We're located in MU 120. We're right behind the Caribou. And our mission is to further advance the mission of North Dakota State University by engaging and empowering student potential so as to foster personal leadership development, diversity appreciation, and positive social and personal growth. Basically, what we're here to do is to accent what students are learning in the classroom. We live by the idea and follow the research that says about 50% of the skills that employers are looking for outside of the workplace happens outside of the classrooms. So what we basically do is we find ways to help continue the education process outside of the classroom. In our office, we have a variety of resources. We are the touch point for most student organizations. We can be reached here. There's a variety of staff and graduate assistants who are here to help. We do this in ways to develop leadership skills and develop some of those soft skills that, again, employers are looking for. We provide assistance with co-curricular activities, resources for like MyNDSU, how to start a club, various forms. But the other side of this is when we talk about our programming, we are talking about and have taken a curricular approach to this. We have 12 learning outcomes that we utilize when it comes to creating an event, creating organizations, and how we can help them. So it's important for us to know and for you to know that we are here to help enhance the opportunity. And the last thing that we do, which is the unfortunate aspect of our job, is that we do handle the code of conduct violations for student organizations. I'm really excited and happy when I can say that we don't get many of them, but just know that that's where we land. Resources that are available, we have professional and knowledgeable staff who are here to help. We do have some storage spaces for students that's available. We're talking cabinet-sized things. Art supplies, poster paper, markers, die cut. Really, what we look at, this is for homecoming, this is the ideal situation. They can come in, they can get paper and do some decorating and that kind of stuff. And then we are also the hub for their campus mail. If they are receiving mail, this is where it should come. In the Office of Student Engagement, we have 7 staff members. This doesn't include our student staff, who honestly are just as effective and helpful in working with students. But our director is Lisa Samuelson. She oversees the office. Then myself, and then our coordinator for fraternity and sorority life is Katie Yunker, and Jacqueline Pinkerton is the coordinator for campus activities. She also oversees the volunteer network, which many of our organizations have volunteered with and have worked with. In addition to that, we have 3 graduate assistants who really play an important role in the success of our office. Vivian is our civic engagement grad. She helps to coordinate various civic engagement activities, such as our poverty simulation. I know this upcoming semester she's doing a stress and academics workshop. And in fact, at this point, all 3 of them are helping with our Constitution Day. We have Sadio Bell, who works with campus activities, so she partners with Jackie to oversee campus attractions and volunteer network. And then Clara Connor is our student organization and fraternity sorority life grad. And she actually works with me and our Congress of Student Organizations to help support our student organizations across the campus. In addition to the Office of Student Engagement, there's two entities within student government that I think are important to know. First is the Congress of Student Organizations. That's led by the Executive Commissioner, Shelby Unger Wilson. The purpose of the Congress of Student Organization is to serve, recognize, and oversee student organizations groups in an official capacity. We're here to help re-register organizations. We're help to support them. We've created a mentor program for student leaders to kind of navigate the various policies and procedures on campus. We create new organizations. So there's a lot of entities, but really the CSO is an advocate for student organization and student leaders. In addition to the CSO, another group of people that you should know is the Finance Commission. Again, part of the student government. The Finance Commission is tasked with dispersing and overseeing the budgets for the student activity fee. We have two commissioners. Abigail Schilling is the executive commissioner for the Tier 1. And I'll explain Tier 1 in just a moment, but basically she oversees university aspects of the student activity fee. And then we have Brian Harris, who is a Tier 2. He will be the one who will primarily work with your student organization should you be asking for a budget throughout the year. So you've made the decision to be an advisor, which is really important. I think, in my opinion, being an advisor is one of the most satisfying roles you can have as a person on a college campus, because you get to have a deeper relationship. You get to have greater experiences. You get to play, honestly, I think, a more significant role in the student's college career. When we talk about that, I have to talk about some of the benefits. And when I talk about, and I did some research on this because I wanted to see what other people were saying, and I have to be very honest, these match up with how I feel. So we talk about the benefits. We're looking at, you get the opportunity to work with students outside of the classroom. As someone who has taught a class and now works outside of the class, I fully recognize that the relationship between a faculty member and an advisor is very different. Even if you are a faculty member who serves as a club advisor, those students that you work with, that you build a relationship as a club advisor, become more, you build a stronger relationship with them. You get the opportunity and the reward of watching them reach their fullest potential. You get to see them as they come from their freshman year to their senior year, and that growth opportunity, those leadership skills, the communication, the conflict resolution, again, all those soft skills employers are looking for, you get to watch them develop. You get the reward of watching them develop these skills and sitting back and being like, yeah, that was great. That was a great opportunity to handle that situation perfectly. You get the chance to share your knowledge and expertise, whether it's as an advisor for an academic club, or maybe it's a special interest club. I think about a friend of mine who is a faculty member at another institution, but on the side, he's a blacksmith. And I think if he wanted to start a blacksmith club, students would join that. And so he gets to share that knowledge of that hobby. I think about on our campus, if you know Maggie Latterall, the assistant director for Welcome Week and New Student Programming, she loves to knit. That is her thing. And she's always knitting. Now in her role, that probably doesn't have a lot of impact, but as the advisor for our Fiber Arts Club, she gets to knit with students. She gets to share that passion with them. She gets to teach them new things. So it's a great opportunity. You get the greater level of satisfaction and accomplishment through making those special contributions. One of my absolute favorite days of the year is graduation, because I get to work with students when they first walk on campus, either through orientation or Welcome Week, and then when they graduate, to watch them walk across that stage. And knowing that I had that opportunity to work with them, that just fills my bucket. And the last thing is you get an opportunity to work with students who want to have an impact and improve the campus and the community. But now the question becomes, who are we advising? And understanding the students that are walking into our offices or into our spaces. Now, there's a college, Beloit College in Wisconsin, I believe, that every year puts out what they call the mindset list. And the mindset list is information about this incoming class of freshmen. So I thought this would be kind of a fun way to take a step back and look at our students. So when we think about the students who are coming, class of 2029, new students this year, some things that are particular to them based on this list, tattoos have always been normal. To relax, they turn on the nightly news, which has been hosted by a comedian. Katie Couric has never been a respected news anchor. Kids have always had their own phones. People have never read a People magazine. I think this one is always interesting. They've never licked a stamp. Never had to pull over for directions. And the dot-com bust means as much to them as the Great Depression. So this is just kind of to put our minds in a little bit of perspective for the students, but I also want to take a serious look at this and understand that these students that are coming in, Generation Z, this is the first generation of truly digital natives. They know how to access computers. They know how to access information. They are seekers of information. They can find the information online better than most. They are known for their idealism, and they put more emphasis on having a purpose and accountability. Now, just to point out, the previous one comes from Beloit. This one comes from McCleskey Group or McKinsey Group, sorry. They did some research looking at Gen Z. This is also a generation that has the least positive outlook, as well as a higher prevalence of mental illness. They're generally more pragmatic. They have more interest in belonging to inclusive and supportive groups. And they're more financially aware both of the future and the present. I think the last two, as we look at students that are entering in now, the interest in belonging to inclusive and supportive groups is more directly tied to their experience with the pandemic. And the financial thing is because they grew up. Some of the pivotal parts of their life was in 2008 during the recession, which has made them more financially aware. Another group has done some other research, a group called Fired Up, and they looked at what do college students hope to get from their college experience. 31% identified making new friends. Now, this is where student organizations come in. When I do orientation, when I work with orientation over the summer, I facilitate a panel of students, but we always ask questions to kind of gear where students are at. Of the 10 to 12 orientations that we do with 250 plus students, there are 3 responses that almost always end up, I would say 95% of the time, are the top 3 responses students give to their greatest concern coming to college. Number 1 is money. That makes sense when we look at the previous slide and the recognizing and valuing the financial aspect of where they're at. Number 2 is coursework. And number 3 is making friends. Those are the 3 responses that are almost always at the top. So this is where student organizations come in. This is where student organizations play a pivotal role in the success of the retention of students. Because another aspect of this is that if students can find places to be connected, they are more likely to graduate. So 31% identified that they hope to make friends. 48.3% are looking for professional and career development. This goes back to what I was saying. Not just are we teaching in the class, but offices like myself, Residential Life, Student Success Programs, the Wellness Center. We're creating programs that are adding to career development. So for example, the Student Involvement Expo, yeah, it's a great way for students to connect, but it's also an opportunity for students to learn how to connect, which falls into one of the areas of our curricular approach, which is fostering connection. And then lastly, 49.3% of students identified they want a memorable experience. I think back to my college experience, and I remember some lectures in the classroom, but I don't remember a lot of them. But I do have a lot of fond memories of hanging out with friends, doing events, the student involvement role that happens on a college campus. It's what honestly kept me going back. So as we look at who we're advising, now it's important. Let's take a look at what is your role. What are some tips for you? First is you got to know your role. Your role as an advisor is to be a mentor, a team builder, conflict mediator, that reflective agent, and that person that somebody can bounce ideas off of, an educator, motivator, policy interpreter. You don't see on this list that as an advisor, you are an event planner, or you are a supervisor, or you are a boss. This is their organization. We've had our time. We're now here to guide them. We also need to understand that your role may change. You may have a group that gets along great at one moment, next moment, they aren't. So now you have to switch from being that educator or that mentor to being that conflict mediator. You need to set expectations early. Be sure that you are developing expectations with your executive board, but if you can also do it with the group as a whole, that is more ideal. Set expectations for what they want of you and what you want of them. Asking questions like, what does my support for you look like? How do you want me to address an issue? How do you want me to be involved? But understand that the flip side of this is you don't have to do everything they say. They may say, we don't want you involved at all. You still got to find a way to be involved, because that's where we get into the policy interpreter role, because students don't understand policies. Next thing we need to do is we need to foster that clear communication with students. Students need to know that they can be comfortable coming and talking to you. But again, setting the boundaries that you're not available 24/7. And while students like text messaging, email is the official form of communication. For a quick question, they can certainly shoot a text if you're willing to share your number. That is not a requirement we have of you. If you want to set up a group meet, you can totally do that. But I will also tell you that when we talk about communication, again, research has shown us that despite what society says about this particular generation, they prefer face-to-face communication. They prefer that active engagement with people. Next, understand that you are a resource. As an advisor, you're there to serve as a resource without being too much of an interference. This ties into building that solid relationship with students so that they know they can come to you and ask you those questions. Strong advisor is going to be familiar with the institutional, state, federal policies, and they're going to make sure that rules are followed, because there is a level of liability that you have as an advisor. So you should be having ongoing conversations. You should be involved with the discussions. Maybe you're not going to meetings, but you are having meetings with leadership team, having those understandings. And the last thing, and I think the most fun part of being an advisor is being present. I'm not telling you you need to be at every student organization meeting. I'm not telling you have to be there all the time. Sometimes the best thing you can do is show up for the 15 minutes before an event starts, check in with them, see if they have any questions, see if they need anything, give them some positive feedback, and then go home. I do encourage people, come to meetings every once in a while. Make sure that they know who you are. Now, on top of this, some of the things that you will need, some of the things you already have. You need to have the club constitution and bylaws. You need to have a list of the officers and the members. Those two things are already included in my NDSU. And then as an advisor for the organization, you're already listed on there and you have access to that. Encourage your organizations to do a calendar of events, whether it's meetings, social events, educational events, whatever it may be. They're posting on MyNDSU. Those never go away. So you can go back and look at what you did in 2021. Try to have a history of the club. What do I mean by this? Hopefully the club is doing meeting minutes and they're posting them to MyNDSU. I understand that not a lot do. This is where your involvement becomes in, because you become the institutional knowledge. You become the history, because if we are doing our jobs right, our students are graduating and they are leaving. Club policies and procedures, most of these are going to be tied into the Constitution and the bylaws. But if there are other things outside of that, CSO guidelines, finance guidelines, tax procedures, those kind of things, they can all be stored again in MyNDSU. But it's important that you know where they're at. Attendance and meeting when possible. We know you're busy. We know it takes a lot of time. We know you have lives outside. But if you can just give a little bit of time to your students, they will appreciate that tenfold. Understand NDSU policy. And if you don't understand NDSU policy, know where to go to ask the question. And then finally, a willingness to assist the group and its members. Sometimes they just need that, to know that there's that person there. So we've talked about being an advisor. We've talked about kind of the expectations of being an advisor, students who are advising. We're going to get into the housekeeping part. And I'm just going to warn you now, it's not the most interesting, but it is important to know, because these are the things that can help an organization be successful or not be successful. So we talk about housekeeping. Let's first start with our officer eligibility. In order for a student to hold a leadership position at NDSU, they have to have a cumulative 2.5 GPA. They have to be enrolled at NDSU, which surprisingly, at least one organization a year, I get a student who's not enrolled who still tries to be a president, vice president, treasurer, social media person. And they have to be in good conduct with the university. I recently sent out notifications to all students who do not meet these requirements, or do not meet the 2.5 GPA or conduct standing issues, because I sent them notification. I included advisors. So if you've got one of those, I would please tell you, encourage your students to apply for the appeal. If your students, we recognize that students have bad semesters, things happen. We don't want this to be an inhibitant, but we want to make sure that we are catching them before it's too late. So if your student has a bad semester or is on an upward trajectory with, their GPA, have them encouraged. I can't guarantee that their appeal will be granted, but if they're going in the right direction, there's a strong chance. If a student is no longer enrolled in NDSU, I've actually already gone in and removed them. So just to be aware. Organizations, they are required to be in good standing. I'll go through that here in just a minute. To maintain a good standing or not lose CSO points, they need to re-register their organization every fall on MyNDSU. So we are currently in the process of doing that. They have until October 1st to start the registration process. If they have not started the registration process by October 1st, they will lose a CSO point. If they still have not started by November 1st, they lose another one, so on and so forth, until they are no longer have CSO points and we vote to close as the CSO. An organization has to have a president, vice president, and a treasurer. These are the only three required positions we have, and they have to be held by different people. They also have to have an advisor. Many of you have agreed to do that, and the advisor must be a permanent employee of NDSU. Constitutions must be updated every 3 years. So if your organization constitution has not been re-ratified since fall of 22, they will need to re-ratify it this year before they can be registered. They need to attend a mandatory leader training. Now this year we are doing something a little bit different. We are doing a large group meeting, but we are also doing a Blackboard course for our students. They can log in, they can work on it on their own time. They complete an assessment at the end. They get 10 out of the 12 questions right. They get credit for the mandatory leader training, and they are good to go. This option will be available until September 24th. And then encouraging them to check their email and then fill out the forms as needed. There is a constitutional change that organizations will need to make this year. They have all received this as part of recent changes to federal law regarding hazing. We have upgraded and strengthened our anti-hazing statement for all student organization constitutions. They need to be implemented this fall as part of the re-registration process. The thing about it is because this is a required statement by North Dakota State University, they do not need member approval. So whoever is registering them can just make the change. However, I do strongly recommend that they continue or that they share with and discuss the new anti-hazing statement at their next meeting. A moment ago, you heard me talk about our tier system. We run on a tier system that primarily is focused on budget for organizations. We have 3 tiers. The first is tier 1. These are university organizations such as the Spectrum, Athletics, Student Government, Division of Fine Arts, the Wellness Center, the Memorial Union, Campus Attractions. These are things that have been deemed important for students to participate in and be a part of on campus. Tier 2, which is a vast majority of our student organizations, are the organizations that can ask for budget through student activity fees. The reason they can do this is because they are non-exclusionary. They can join. Anybody can join. An example of this might be like a club sport. Typically, when you have a sport, there is a cut. People can be cut. Here at North Dakota State, we cannot cut people from a club sport if they are a tier 2 organization. Does that mean they all get to travel? No, because there is limited budget. But it means that when those organizations are having practice or have home meets, there might be opportunities to participate. The third tier are selective organizations. These are typically our fraternities, sororities, and honor societies, and they are not open to receiving funds for our student activities. Our status system, which is tied to benefits for student organizations. We have a system, sometimes it's referred to as CSO points, sometimes it's referred to as status points. They are the same. It ranges from 1 to 5. 3, 4, and 5 standing is considered good standing. It allows you to apply for a budget. It allows you to send emails through the student listserv. It allows you to reserve spaces, catering. Now, the lower of the 3, 4, or 5 can denote less of something. So if you have a standing of 5, your organization can ask for and student government can fund up to 70%. If you have a 4, it might fund, I think it's 67%, and so on and so forth. If your organization is a standing of 2 or a 1, then you are not in good standing. In fact, you can be, basically you're on probation. You are not able to travel, you're not able to reserve rooms, you're not able to obtain funding. You're very limited in your opportunities. You lose points by failing to turn in paperwork and forms in appropriate amount of time or having conversations with our office. If you aren't able to, you can lose points for failing to attend a mandatory leader training, failing to re-register. So it's very limited in how you can lose points, but it still happens. Now, should you lose points, there's opportunities to take it. The CSO and the Office of Student Engagement work together to create a series of workshops that are facilitated primarily by me, looking at different organizational aspects that will help the org. So, for example, September 30th, we have running an effective meeting. If you send a student to that and you have less than a 5, you would get a CSO point. So it is very simple to go from a 1 to a 5 in a very short amount of time. As you can tell, these are all based on, we do try to do about every 2 weeks. Now, one of the things I do ask, and I just recently sent out an email to all of your student leaders, is that sometimes our emails sent through MyNDSU end up in the junk file. It is a flaw at the system that I'm trying to work on. But if this is the case, if students aren't getting emails from MyNDSU, they can go to their junk file, scroll down, find a MyNDSU email, right click on it, and click not junk. If they're doing the internet version of their Outlook, I think it's block, and you can unblock something. You do this, emails will start coming to their inbox. All right. So now we want to talk a little bit about the forms, because this is where student organizations can get held up. This is where they can sometimes struggle. So this is the MyNDSU page. And you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner, there's what looks like a little, I don't know, piece of paper type of thing. That is a form page. When you click on that, you'll go to something that looks like this. On here, on mine, you're going to see a lot more forms that you probably won't see, but things like the alcohol risk management, facilities use agreement, fundraising form, travel form, they're all listed here. One of the things I like to point out, so if you're going to start something, you can click start. Maybe you don't have all the information. Maybe your student doesn't have all the information. Rather than giving us less than what we need, you can step out and then come back, and you'll notice like right here where it says resume. You can go back and you can resume that same information. If we have the information that we need, then we can process the form faster. So I want to talk about travel. We have two travel policies. They are basically the same. One is a little bit different. But generally speaking, for both of them, the policy for travel is that we ask that your student orgs get them in about 2 weeks prior to travel. Now, I understand that sometimes things happen last minute. Again, club sports, maybe you make it into a regional or a national tournament, you just didn't know. Let us know. You can fill the form out. They can fill the form out ahead of time, whether they think they're going to get it or not, and just let us know if you're not going. But you can fill the form out, let us know, have this communication with us. Things to remember, and think this is where student orgs traveling get hung up. In order to get your form approved, you submit a list of everybody who's traveling. We then check it based on when they've logged into MyNDSU. Every year or every semester, they have to log into MyNDSU. So if you know that your organization is traveling, have them log into MyNDSU. First meeting, just get it done. If you have questions, you can always email me. You can always email our graduate assistant, Clara. Both of us are the ones who handle these forms. The other thing that's important about our travel forms is that we ask for the location of where you stay. This is important because, as we're all aware, we have what's called the Clery Act, which means that we have to report any crime that happens on our campus or within the vicinity of our campus. When students travel as part of a conference, competition, field trip, whatever it may be, where they stay also falls under the Clery Act. So if a student organization, for example, one of our club sports was in a city and their car got broken into, that could be a Clery reportable act because it was part of the university travel. So making sure that we have that information. The second form we have, which is our international travel form, the information provided is the same. The only thing is different is what you see on the screen. We ask that if your students are traveling internationally, this does include going to Canada, that they purchase international health insurance for the people who are participating. My understanding is this is not an overly expensive thing. Second, visit the State Department website to learn about the locations of where you're going and any entry requirements that may be part of it. We also ask that you view the pre-departure video that has been created by the International Student Study Abroad Services here on campus. If any of your members have an F1 or J1 international student visa and they are planning on attending this, they need to meet with their international student advisor. And then lastly, we highly recommend, as a student group, student leaders facilitating the trip, go and visit with a study abroad coordinator to discuss your plans. Again, this is all just to make sure that you are safe and that you're able to enjoy the opportunity to travel abroad in a manner that is going to help you enjoy it or help your students enjoy it. Your students also have access to renting a car for their student organization. We have a partnership or an agreement with Enterprise and National Rental. They do get a slight discount, but the more important thing is that your students can, by utilizing the promotion code, it does take away the over 25 requirement. So a student who is under 25 can then rent the car. This can save on your students taking their own personal vehicles, and can just be a better, also, if you want to take a minivan instead of multiple cars, this just helps out that way. You can get the promotional code from the Finance Commission. You just have to contact them at ndsu.sg.finance@ndsu.edu. Another form I want to point out is our Alcohol Risk Management Form, or ARMA. Some of our organizations will do events where they might host alcohol. And whether it's, say, an end of the year social, holiday party, dance, whatever it may be, there are some requirements for this. It does need to be submitted 2 weeks in advance. The organization has to have a third-party security at the event, plans for alcohol control, such as checking IDs, wristbands, those kind of things, an accurate guest list, because you can tell further down, we do require that there is a 10-to-1 ratio. For every 10 people, there needs to be a sober monitor in attendance. They need to supply a third-party bartender. They need to also supply safe and sober transportation, and this cannot be sober monitors because the sober monitors have to stay at the location throughout the evening. And then finally, there have to be alternative foods that are non-salty and non-alcoholic beverages that are provided. I tell you this, I don't think a lot of organizations participate in this because honestly, as you look at it, it does get expensive. But it's important to be aware of, because the last thing that we would want is for something to happen out at an event and know that the organization is not covered. So we also have, I want to talk a little bit about reserving spaces, the facilities use agreement, and insurance for the campus. So we talk about reserving spaces. First, the first thing that students have to do is they need to choose the location and the dates and the times. They need to figure out what they want. The second thing they need to do is work with event services in the Memorial Union to identify what space they want to have. Recently, the event services staff has taken over reserving classroom spaces for student organizations. So if your org is meeting in Ag Hill or Loftguard, they will be the one to process the request for the space. If you are still booking places in like the Wellness Center or festival, you'll still work with whoever's booking spaces in those particular. Classroom spaces are now going through event services. If your meeting is happening in the union, in all likelihood, you're not going to need a facilities use agreement. The FUA is only required for student organizations that are meeting outside of the Memorial Union. This does include any meetings that happen at Berry Hall, Renaissance Hall, or any of the downtown facilities. If they are meeting outside, again, any space outside of the Memorial Union does need an FUA. The FUA can be found in the form section of MyNDSU and is in essence a risk management form that allows students to kind of checklist to make sure that they are meeting campus and community policies. For example, there is a question about amplified sound, because if you have amplified sound, you're going to need a sound permit from the city of Fargo. Once you have a completed FUA, if your meeting is outside of the union, Or if you have a confirmation for a meeting in the union, you can then create a MyNDSU event. The MyNDSU event cannot be created until the FUA or the confirmation has been finalized. Again, I just want to reiterate, conference and event services in the Memorial Union, they will help you with room rental. They will help you with renting class spaces outside. If you are planning on bringing a conference or a large event, they are the people to have a conversation with. They can walk you through the needs and the things you're going to have to be aware of. Facilities use agreement does need to be completed within 5 business days of the event. If you are holding a meeting, if your students are meeting in the same place the same day, at the same time, so every Monday, Ag Hill, 5 o'clock, they only need to fill out one FUA. They can legitimately, I get them all the time where it just says every Monday, 5 p.m. If they have not received a confirmation when they submit it, then it's not fully submitted. And confirmation email that it has been approved comes from Pete Zimmerman in facilities. If you have not completed it or it has not gone through the system, you will not get that email. If your organizations do not fill out the FUA, the events can be canceled and CSO points can be deducted. Some events, and this is where the FUA can be important, state law does require that organizations carry insurance for particular events, things that are deemed high risk. And it could be high risk to a building, to students' health and well-being, to a variety of different things. If you are told that you need to have insurance, your organization can get daytime insurance or day-long insurance for the event and they need up to $2 million per occurrence, or 1 million per occurrence and 1 million umbrella, not to exceed 1 million, or 1 million excess. And the certificate has to also list NDSU as a certificate holder. If you have questions on this, I would recommend you contact Jennifer Quinnett in the safety office. And in all likelihood, when she reviews the FUA, if it's something that she thinks or needs to know more information about, she will contact you and let you know if you need to have insurance. This is an example of what insurance might look like. You'll notice, again, this is 1 million and 1 million. NDSU listed as an additional insured, or 2 million, but again, NDSU listed as an additional insured. The last form I want to talk through is our fundraising form. This is also online. It is in the form section of MyNDSU. It does need to be submitted 2 weeks prior, but we can, if you again have communication with us, offer some flexibility. Couple things to know about this for your students. Number one, if they're collecting membership dues, they do not need to complete a fundraising form, or if they're getting any sort of donated merchandise. I do ask that if you are doing any sort of sponsorship request, that you can put in information or that you submit a form just so I have something on file. There are limited resources in Fargo-Moorhead and our foundation accesses a lot of them. So if they have questions, I'd like to know how to respond. The other thing that's important to understand is that we do allow student organizations to use electronic platforms for collecting money. However, the electronic platform you use must directly deposit any funds taken into the organization's bank account. It cannot go to an individual's personal account, excuse me, and it cannot go to, because the last thing we want to do is we want it to bounce from person to person for a variety of reasons. Number one, technically speaking, if I take money and I give it to my treasurer, who then takes it to the bank, we technically have committed money laundering. But more importantly, the less electronic fingers that touch it, the less questions come up. So it's just a safety issue for our students. If our organizations are looking to create any sort of logo, I encourage you to check out the branding guidelines for the university. I also encourage you, once you have a logo, send it to me. If you are advising a club sport, you can send it to Josh Ryan and the Wellness Center. And then we have conversations with the athletic department and with university relations to make sure that the logo meets brand guidelines and everybody is okay. When I send it, I will always include the person who submitted the form or submitted the inquiry about the logo, so that if there are any questions by athletics or communication and marketing, they can address it directly with the student. We have a few new things from CSO that I wanted to point out for you. The first, and I mentioned this earlier, is we've created a mentor program for student leaders to help them navigate policies, procedures, understanding of how things work on campus. If your organization is in bad standing, the mentor can help you get out of bad standing. If you're looking to start or restart an organization, we always offer this mentor program to those student leaders. Or if you just have a leader who maybe feels like they're just overwhelmed and not quite sure what's happening, we're happy to help. They work with one of our commissioners on the Congress of Student Organizations. So it's a peer-to-peer mentor. In addition, in partnership with the Finance Commission, we've worked with Eide Bailly to create a tax program, or it's a tax document for our student organizations. If your student organization takes in any funds, there is a likelihood that they will have to submit some tax information. For most of our orgs, they don't make enough to do a full form, so it's typically just a postcard. However, it is important to understand that in the Congress of Student Organization page on MyNDSU, under the document section, there is this form. It is an interactive, so you can click on question or click on certain icons. It'll take you certain pages and you can work through it. Lastly, I'm telling you this because I'm putting a challenge out to our student organizations. We have so many student organizations who are doing so many good things on campus that we just don't know about. So I'm asking student organizations to promote themselves, celebrate their accomplishments, post events that they're doing, promote it on social media, post pics on MyNDSU, put a brief article in the news section of MyNDSU, share it with our office, share it with CSO. I would love to know exactly what you all are doing and what student orgs are doing so that we can celebrate what our students are accomplishing on campus. I've had conversations with students who have gone to national and international competitions, taken first, second, third place in these competitions, but nobody knows about it. We've had student clubs that are competing in national tournaments and doing very well and not getting the recognition. I would love to share that. Encourage your students to send me information and I will send it out to the campus. So as I wrap up here, I just want to remind you of resources. Again, Congress of Student Organizations, you can find them in the Student Government Office, MU 128, or contact Shelby. The Finance Commission is also located at MU 128. They are students, so they have a lot going on as well. So that's why we're here. The Office of Student Engagement, we are open Monday through Friday, at least 8 to 5. But even after hours, it's oftentimes you can find one of us. Come by, visit, shoot us an email. We're happy to help. As we wrap up, I want to thank you for your time, and I want to thank you for the dedication that you have demonstrated for your students. If you're like me, advising a student organization, working with students brings you a great deal of joy. And I know that sometimes it is difficult and sometimes it is challenging, but know that I appreciate, and more importantly, your students appreciate the time and energy that you put into them. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. But once again, thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.